Nothing Worthwhile, the recognized symbol of excellence in crappy podcasting.
I'm Evan Moody.
I'm Andrew Gruthius.
And you're listening to Nothing Worthwhile
with Moody and Groo.
Oh, hell yeah!
Yeah.
Has assisted his 25th patient with a suicide. This time, the woman's body was found in the parking lot of a hospital. In a car. Parked car.
Jackie's got dark humor, man.
So this time they just drove the woman to the hospital and left her there so she could be found. No. That sounds like dying with dignity to me.
He beat her with a tire iron and threw her off the bridge.
Naked.
Yes. Esther Cohen, who was 46, suffered from multiple sclerosis. She was nearly quadriplegic and covered with bed sores, according to her lawyer.
Sounds like Gilbert.
There was another commuter plane accident.
There's Jackie. Okay.
This time down in Georgia. 30-seater. I think 4 or 5 people were killed, including the pilot. The rest are in the hospital, recovering from their injuries. The plane broke into 3 pieces. Oh, please, Jack.
Jackie, the news can't get any funnier than this.
And an investigation is now going on. Oh, my God.
He goes nuts for that guy.
I didn't know this was a funny story.
He loves to hear Jackie laugh. That inhuman laugh.
Yeah.
How many died, Robin? How many died?
4 people. Really, that is wrong, Gilbert, to laugh like that. Jackie may be insensitive, but you don't have to follow in his footsteps.
Yes. Yes. Go ahead, Robin. Sorry about that.
Yes, please.
Gilbert, very offensive.
Yes.
I hate to deal with another tragic story right after that. You guys had such a good time. Some U.S. diplomats were killed over in Bosnia.
Hi, this is Ed McMahon. We need you for Star Search. We need your daughters. If you're a girl between the ages of 13 and 19 with bad grades and an unstable family, come to my house. Star Search is looking for cellulite-free young women. Spokesmodels. You cannot be turned down. Get to meet a wine-soaked second banana. There are no judges, just me. Jack A., get out of here. You cannot be turned down. Are you really 13? Where's my lobster bib? Yes, life will be champagne and video smarts and magazines to read while I nap. I'll dress you up like Tommy Newsom. Star Search needs you. Yum, yum, yum. Come meet Johnny. Party with me in my bathrobe, you spokesmodels. Traipse with me through hotel lobbies at 3 a.m., wearing nothing but vomit-stained terry cloth robes. Bring your lesbian roommates. Room service. We need more KY and kaopectate. Be the first on your block to lick liquid off of Ed. It'll be a new life. Try being a spokesmodel. You can't be turned down. Now, I can't call you. You have to call me. Parade around in your bathing suit while I soil my robe and rate you on a scale of 1 to 10. I want to rate you. I want to rate you. I want to rate you now. Call today. I could go any minute. I'm so horny I could make Johnny look like a homo. I think I've gone mad. I'm so wet I might propose to you on national TV on a float. Undress for me. We'll adopt a child. Hi-oh. I'll even do that for you. I'll bet this sounds too good to be true. Send your photos to Ed McMahon, care of Peter Calabrese at the Hacienda Hotel, Las Vegas, Nevada, OU812. If you've got a dot in the middle of your forehead or a fuzzy back, don't apply. If you've got an exotic look, we'll create a special category. Shouldn't you call now?
We took clips of Ronnie reading Jewish prayers and called it Current Affairs radio show. And here it is. No further explanation needed.
Hello, everybody, and good weekend. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Cold, winter cold. Let's take a new call.
Okay.
Hi, how are you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Good.
I'm good. I love the show.
Thank you.
I'm here with my dad. Believe it or not, at the age of 72, he's decided to convert to Judaism.
Oh.
Yeah. He's going to be bar mitzvah next Saturday.
That's great.
Is that going to be in English, or do you have to learn Hebrew?
Well, it's all Hebrew. And he was actually wondering if he could practice a bit on your show. He's a big fan.
Yeah, sure. We'd love to have him.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, great. Hang on. His name's Ronnie. Dad,
Right.
Pick up. They'll let you do it. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hey, how are you?
You guys ready to get this shit started?
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
gonna be. Yeah.
Baruch atah Adonai elech Baruch atah Adonai melech. See, I'm all fucked up now, dude. I got so
All
much
right,
shit
well.
going on in my head right now.
Take time.
Make yourself
Hebrew's
some,
not the easiest
like-
language.
Bori
It
Perfu.
is very easy to.
Baruch atah Adonai elech. That's fucked up.
I think you're doing good.
Trying.
Fuck it,
Doing
man.
good, you're
I
trying.
recognize one word, Adonai, which means the Lord.
Baruch atah Adonai melech.
Yeah.
Baruch atah Adonai elech. Oh, God.
Go ahead, do it.
You don't have a coach to help you with the Hebrew?
No.
What do you mean, no?
I said no.
Well, listen, you can't read it. You got to rely on somebody else to read that.
What, am I a fucking idiot?
Hey, wait a minute. I thought you were saying prayers, and now you're cursing.
I don't know what I was still trying to figure out when to do it and how to
We have
do it.
another caller?
Shut up and let me talk.
Suzanne.
Yeah.
You fucking jealous bastard.
Suzanne, get him off.
Fuck off.
I've gotten the proverbial finger from head engineer Andrew Gruthius. Groo, they come, they go. What impact did they have on the show, and what will be their legacy? Today, Moody and Groo will discuss Howard Stern, The Other Side. All of that, plus a sizzling Nothing Worthwhile the week that was, and all the fun banter and comedy that makes us America's #1 bi-coastal podcast featuring two annoying Jews. You know where I'm at. I'm on the West Coast in the great state of Arizona, in the great city of Phoenix to be exact, along with show mascots Braxton Moody, a.k.a. the Road Dog, and Jet Moody, a.k.a. Puppy Shango on the floor sleeping. My name is Evan Moody, annoying Jew #1 on the East Coast, in the great state of Florida, in the great city of Coral Springs. Let's bring in annoying Jew #2. His name, Andrew Gruthius. Groo, how the hell are you, my friend?
Good morning. Wait a minute. Hold on.
Oh, are we ready?
No. Just I was hearing weird things. But yeah, we're good. How are you today? How are you doing?
Sunday, cold, winter cold. Last week, probably we were well to the 80s by midday. A little chilly in the morning, and by the end of the day, it was
All right. Anyway, we're back now.
we good?
Yeah, we're good. We had a couple of technical snafus there, but
well, anyway, nonetheless,
thank you, everybody, and have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Yes, it's cold in Arizona. Another week closer to WrestleMania and the trip of a lifetime. In a couple of weeks, we'll be having the Nothing Worthwhile, the most stupendous WrestleMania review. Before we get to Groo, Howard Stern, The Other Side, let's get back to our last podcast. It was our breakdown and review of Season 1 of Peacemaker, the John Cena, James Gunn vehicle. Currently streaming on HBO Max. We had help from our very special guest host, Monique Verdugo.
Indeed.
Groo, any thoughts, final thoughts on Season 1 of Peacemaker?
Well, I really enjoyed doing the podcast, and it was great having Moni here. I look forward to having her on again, and I'm really glad we did it because people don't know about this show. And it's time to spread awareness. Because I've been asking, like, nobody's even heard of it. And I'm like, you guys, like, if you like superhero movies, especially like Suicide Squad, like billions of people saw the Suicide Squad and they don't know this one. Like, so it was surprising to me that so many people aren't aware of it. And I didn't say it in last week's podcast, but I was thinking to myself as I was watching, I'm like, this should be like a spin-off sequel movie. Like that's like I felt like this would be a better movie, like theater. You know, I don't know. Maybe because so many people don't know about it. You know what I mean?
Interesting point. But if you remember what we talked about last week, James Gunn specifically said though he wanted to mine this on television because he thought television allows for more in-depth plot.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be drawn over a 2-hour movie, that you could do 8 or 9, 50-minute episodes to give, a little bit more detail and more flavor. Interesting thought that you said that, but I think Gunn really looked at this as a straight up television piece.
Well, that's fine. I'm just my comment was based purely on the fact that people aren't aware of it. And that's disappointing because it's really quality stuff and it should be watched,
Yes, clearly our podcast numbers reflected that not too many people seem to be interested in our thoughts on Peacemaker. It was funny. I said to myself, let me take a look at like Google search on Peacemaker this week. Because in my notes, I like to go back to the last podcast. I said, let me see if there's anything about Peacemaker. So I just wanted to share that John Cena got a lot of shit earlier in the week because he put out a tweet and he said, at this moment with Russia and Ukraine, I really wish I had real life powers like a peacemaker. And then, of course, social media took a big diarrhea took a big dump on him because
come on.
I know.
Leave it to Cena. Leave it to Cena. He finally gets past that like goody two shoes kind of like John Cena sucks kind of persona, and he gets this character that's so hardcore and so like adult, and he follows it up with back to never give up, believe in yourself kind of. Geez, come on, John.
I think people are just pretty much done with celebrities pontificating on current events and things of that nature. But I have no problem. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with. Well,
that.
I do.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Well, here's my point. I don't have a problem with. They have as much of a right to use their platform as we do. They might be more famous than us, but that's not the point. What I do have a problem with is connecting yourself, is using your fictional character to try to manipulate people's thought. Like, I wish I was the real Superman, so I could, like, it'd be like whoever plays Superman in the DC. I wish I was the real Superman, so I could solve. Like, speak from yourself, not your character. Don't be that guy. That's my criticism of it.
All right, fair enough. We're talking real quick about John Cena in the world of wrestling. Let me give you a couple of quick hitters. Did you hear at all Vince McMahon's interview on the Pat McAfee show?
I saw it.
Okay,
I saw it.
Any give me some thoughts? Any thoughts?
Well, it wasn't as hard hitting as I thought it would be, or as I hoped it would be. Not that I thought it would be. Those things are very well planned for good reason. But it was a lot of fun. I will say you're a big fan of Pat McAfee more than I am, but he was great. I really enjoyed the banter. I really enjoyed how he didn't get too on his knees, sort of kissing his ass as much as I thought as much as I expected him to. But I was a little disappointed that they were kind of teasing that McMahon was actually going to get back in the ring at WrestleMania with McAfee, but it doesn't look like that. Like it, I think what did they say that they were going to put Austin Theory in there or something.
That is true.
It was fun. It was fun to watch. That's what I'll say about it. It was fun. It was fun to watch.
Number one, Pat McAfee is I don't know if I'll say genius, but he's this new level broadcaster who pretty much bet on himself and, got himself, I don't know if he was originally Barstool, but now he's on Sirius XM, part of the Mad Dog Sports lineup. I love him. It took me a while to get used to, but some of these broadcasters now and podcasters that have gone through YouTube, I have a lot of respect for it. He kind of did it his own way. Yes, the websites talked about that this was going to be like sort of a kayfabe deal, but it really wasn't.
Right.
In terms of hard hitting, I thought it was in the Pat McAfee relaxed style. It wasn't a sit down with Dave Meltzer or Bob Costas. It was a casual kind of setting, but you got a lot of stuff. Vince talked about being hated, death threats. He acknowledged AEW.
That was interesting.
He talked about bringing people back like Hulk Hogan, who maybe at the time he didn't really want to, but it was best for business. I won't say it was maybe a standard Dave Meltzer, 10 out of 10, but it was probably an 8.5 or 9. I mean, they really hit upon a lot of sensitive subjects that I think people were curious about Vince McMahon. I mean, of course, there was the typical fawning about Vince is 76 and he's a machine, but I wanted to hear a little bit about that. I'd like to hear his personal philosophy. He is a billionaire, and while I'm not obsessed, I like to hear what guys like Vince and Elon Musk, and I mean, there's a reason why they made it to the top. And it was a little fawning at times, but even some of Pat's guys in the audience asked, or in the studio asked some pretty good questions. So overall, I thought it was pretty good, and it wasn't kayfabe, which I liked. And the only thing they acknowledged was Vince offered Pat a match at WrestleMania, and yes, as Andy said, they're going to go with Austin Theory. I'm not that jazzed up about it. I think they could have went some other ways with it, but fine. You're going to get Pat McAfee, who's a fairly big name on the card, which is what they need. So I did enjoy it as well, maybe for different reasons, but I did enjoy the Vince McMahon interview.
Yeah, me too. You're a bigger Pat McAfee fan than I am, but I'll give you this. You said something that I was going to say. It took you some time to get used to it. Excuse me. Whoa, what was that? Save that one for later. It took time. So it's taking me time to sort of get used to his commentary style on the show. I loved his interview. I love his personality. Just as a color commentator, I'm not there yet, but I'm closer than I have been. So I'm sure it will. I'm sure I will get. It will take some more time to get used to it and enjoy his style more than I do now.
I'm surprised. Usually I'm always surprised when Andy and I don't like the same things because we're pretty similar. But I just, when he's on the mic, there's just an unbridled enthusiasm and joy. And you're a guy who's always said you don't want the standard suit and tie, ESPN, call it play-by-numbers wrestling commentator. I am glad that you're acknowledging that you're warming up to him a little bit. But, I mean, you don't love when Shinsuke Nakamura comes out and he's dancing on the tape. I just love that.
There are things that I do like about that. Yeah. However, what I've always said was I long for the wrestling commentators, those, and he's not one. But that doesn't mean that if it was Bobby Heenan, God rest his soul, standing on the table doing that stuff, I think that was ridiculous also. So it's but look, it's going in a different direction. And I'm going with it. We're going to WrestleMania. We're going. If Pat McAfee is signing at WrestleCon, we're going up and we're introducing ourselves. And I'm going to lie to his face and say you're the greatest I've ever seen. It's the same shit. So I appreciate, like what you said. I agree with. I respect where he's come from and how far he's come in this business in such a short period of time. To nail. How long has he been with them? 2 years at the most.
WWE?
Yeah.
No, he started in the pandemic when they were in the
so 2 years, so a couple of years.
2 years max,
right?
If anything,
and he's having a non kayfabe interview with Vince McMahon. That's respectable right there. I have to. And he had Brock Lesnar the week before. Who the hell interviews Brock Lesnar? You know,
he's had on Bill Goldberg. He's had on Brock. I listened to bits and pieces of both interviews. Enjoyed it. I think the only other thing I would say to cap this was you listen to Vince. Vince definitely has an appreciation for Pat McAfee, and I believe he's given Pat a lot of leeway as a broadcaster. They didn't talk about it too much, but you get the sense that Vince is not in his ear too much. I think Vince likes his unbridled nature and gives Pat a little bit more leeway, perhaps as a commentator, than maybe a Corey Graves or somebody else. That's just me pontificating, but you hear Vince's respect and appreciation for Pat as a broadcaster and as an entertainer.
Yeah, I'll say he's a better broadcaster than superstar Billy Graham.
By the way, one of my very favorite documentaries to watch on the WWE Hub on Peacock, which I hate pretty much, but Billy Graham, I think it's called like 15 Years Too Soon.
Yeah, Too Soon. Yeah,
like that.
That's a good one.
Yeah, good one. All right.
Well, wait. I want to use this moment to say yes. We love the WWE. We loved the WWE Network. Peacock, get your shit together. You have all the stuff, and you're keeping it parked in the garage. Give us a better platform. You're not doing a good job. The mechanism or the algorithm, whatever it is, whatever you're smoking, there's a million better ways to do it than you're doing it. There, I said it. Let's move on.
Can I just give you two things that bother me the most about the WWE Hub on Peacock?
Yes.
Number one, you can't do a search anymore for a specific match.
Right.
If I want to watch, let's say, Brock Lesnar versus Bill Goldberg at Survivor Series, I got to go to Survivor Series 2016, 2017, and fast forward. You used to be able to go directly to the match. And also, the other thing that I don't like is, it just seems like they're not putting out as much new content as they did when it was the WWE.
Well, that's on the WWE, I think.
Yeah,
that's on the but the network, the way the way they do the WWE on there is the same way they do their other TV shows, and it's just a different animal. It's a different kind of thing. Like you said, I love that. That was an amazing part of the network that wasn't part of it at the beginning, but graduated to that where you could search match by match. You didn't have to do. But anyway, we made our point. Hopefully, somebody will hear us.
All right, real quick. You mentioned WrestleMania. I'll give you a couple of quick hitters before we move on. Got up this morning, had my cup of coffee. Couple of quick things. Number one, we'll lump them together. Cody Rhodes apparently is off the internal booking sheets for WrestleMania, and Stone Cold Steve Austin scaled back for WrestleMania. Any thoughts?
Well, I heard about Cody Rhodes being taken off of WrestleMania. I believe that they're saving him for the Raw after. That's going to be my prediction. The following day, because that sort of kickstarts the next year. I think they have what they need for WrestleMania. So that I'm gonna hope that that's what it is, and that it wasn't like a contract breakdown, or I'm gonna hope that's what it is, because I would like to see him back in the WWE.
So would I. I think if you have Cody Rhodes in the can, you got to get him out at WrestleMania. Because you got 2 nights, and from what I've read, listen, if it was a normal stadium, the ticket sales I would not criticize. I've read night 2 is about 55,000. Night 1 is about 50,000. Obviously, night 2 has the Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar match. That has the marquee match. But I think, unless they scale back seating, you could jam as many as 90,000, 100,000 in there. I think you got to try to get every big name you can onto the card. From what I've read, he may not even be signing with them.
I hope that's not the case. I mean, well, we'll see, but it could be all a swerve too. They know that the fans seem to know everything ahead of time. Sometimes they're able to keep a secret. So we'll see. I'm hoping that if he's off of WrestleMania, I'm hoping that it's because he's going to come back the following night. We'll see. But the other thing you said, the other thing you said was about, I did not hear about Stone Cold. The last I heard, he was being rumored that he was going to wrestle, but they didn't give any more information than that. So what did I not hear?
I've just read scaled back. I think he'll just be doing maybe some appearances for the WWE in Texas, and I don't think he's going to wrestle, and probably shouldn't at the age of 57.
He doesn't have to wrestle, but he could get himself involved in some fashion. Yeah. Instead of just coming out saying, "Hey, what's up?" dressed as a pirate. That went over well.
Yeah, that was just god awful. Last quick thing I'll hit you up with: WWE big house show at Madison Square Garden last night. Fans were disappointed. Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar did not go as scheduled. Bobby Lashley out due to a shoulder injury, and out comes none other than Austin Theory to wrestle Brock in the main event, which did not go over well with the fans. But what did go over with the fans was after the match, Roman Reigns comes out and busts open Brock Lesnar at MSG. So you got Austin Theory versus Brock, which disappoints. But then the show ends with Roman Reigns running and busting open and bloodying Brock Lesnar at MSG. Andrew, any thoughts?
Well, sounds good to me. It's anything that builds up towards that match, because remember you're having it's another. Is this the third time that they've main evented WrestleMania together?
Yes.
Has that ever happened before? 3 times at WrestleMania? Was it Cena Rock?
Yes.
Cena Rock?
No.
Or Rock Austin?
They're calling Rock Austin.
Okay.
I think the third one, I don't know if you would call it a main event, but that was a stacked card. That was WrestleMania 19 in Seattle, which was just ridiculously stacked. But Austin Rock 3 times at Mania.
Yeah, well, look, they need to add. Well, they've got a good momentum going with this, and anything to add to it is fine. I still don't understand why they wouldn't at least televise last night's thing. They were promoting it as if it was being televised. So I'm not sure what they're. Well, I don't know what they were trying to gain from that.
A couple of things about your points. I don't know. I haven't checked YouTube. Perhaps there's a viral moment that they'll put out there. What I have read is the WWE's marketing strategy, and this I think is actually maybe not a bad idea. They've limited their house shows, but they're sort of rebranding their house shows now. Like Saturday night house shows will be called Saturday Night Main Events, and they're doing like Sunday Mania Tilts, and they're giving you a lot less house shows than they did in the early 2000s. We know that house shows don't generally make a ton of dough, and sometimes they struggle with attendance. So I think what they're trying to do is, give you a more finite number of house shows and trying to make them more special and trying to, to get some bigger names and make you want to go because perhaps you might see something that's, you wouldn't see typically. That's what I know about the house shows and where they're going with the WWE.
Yeah, I think it'd be kind of cool to sort of live stream it, so it's not like a regular TV show, but throw a live stream up on the Peacock and just literally have us watching a bunch of house show wrestling matches. No backstage promos, none of this stuff. You can have a couple of the B-list commentators, or try some people out. And like they used to do on the MSG channel. They would televise those live from MSG things that only the 4 people who had the MSG network on Long Island were able to watch.
I love that.
Yeah, I thought it was great network too. So why not do that where literally we are watching just the wrestling matches, and I think that there's nothing to lose from that. I don't think.
Now, hearing that is an interesting idea. Where I would go with that would be similar to what ESPN did with Monday Night Football. They did like the Manning cast. Like maybe you take a wrestler from his living room, or you do
that's a good idea. Yeah.
do like a wrestling couple, like Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, have them from their living room just calling the matches or talking about it over, or
hire
like
us,
like
Vince. Hire us.
Yeah, do something informal. Informal. So
that's what I meant. So it'll be interesting. Hey, it's keeping all of this stuff, whether it's Cody Rhodes or the MSG or all this, it's keeping WWE in the discussion points leading up to WrestleMania, which can only be good.
That I'll agree. I think the Vince interview got a lot of play on mainstream media, Sports Illustrated, ESPN. They got a lot of play on, because he doesn't do a lot of live interviews. So I think that definitely kept the WWE out there. Yeah. I agree with you on that one for sure.
For sure.
All right, Groo, let's get to it. Today's Nothing Worthwhile podcast. Howard Stern, The Other Side, is brought to you by NuYou Life Center. NuYou Life Center is growing. New location. Check them out in Phoenix at 4515 North 16th Street, Suite 105. That's Phoenix, Arizona, 85016. Great Marie took the staff out for dinner last night at Eddie V's. Delicious dinner at Scottsdale. Eddie V's. You'd love it.
Did you take me there?
No, I didn't. But
But you will.
If I do, I got to just cash in a mutual fund. It's definitely steaks and fish and seafood. Yeah, you'd love it. Lobster and steaks. What Marie did do for Valentine's Day was, and she prefaced this by saying, "This is a gift for you and Andrew."
Hey, love you, Marie.
Gave us a bunch of gift cards for food when we have our big WrestleMania schmaz long weekend. So we got some food covered. Listen, guys, check them out, www.newyoulifecenters.com. Check out one of their wonderful laser treatments. Restore your youthfulness with confidence. Life-changing solutions tailored to your goals. That's NuYou Life Center. Groo, we're talking about Howard Stern. His look has evolved somewhat over the years. I think Howard's probably had some laser treatments and some plastic surgery over the years, huh?
Well, didn't he admit to as much a little bit, like his chin or something or whatever. Look, there's no who. He's such a pussy. No, it's just like...
Well, here's the thing. Andrew and I were talking about this. So the idea for today's podcast is we're going to talk about the 5 biggest players on the show who have left, and to get our thoughts about the reasons behind them leaving, which could be circumstantial as well. Nothing may not be formally proven as fact, and of course their legacy and impact to the show. But Andrew and I acknowledge, these Howard Stern ones are tough because I am a huge fan, not a fan of the current incarnation of Howard Stern, and it's Groo, it's upsetting to talk about Howard these days. To where he started, to where he is.
Yeah, and look, you mention everything you mention has like an evolution to it, like the work that he's had done or hasn't, whatever. These are things that he had a bond with his audience that he would just tell them everything. He would tell us everything. And now I understand as you get older, there are certain things about your life that you want to keep private. I get it. That's perfectly fine. But he's one who's always been self-deprecating, and that was one of his biggest charms. What's wrong with him just telling us, so I got these hair plugs and they're fucking with my head. I can't sleep at like something to bitch about, Talk about the nose job that you had. Talk about like what we love about Howard, or what we loved about Howard, was that he seemed to be just like the rest of us. And that's what, even though we knew he was much richer and much more successful, even when he was still married, living out in the big mansion in Westbury, Long Island, he would still talk about how, his vanity. Now his vanity has sort of, gone the way of the people we're going to be talking about today. It's as if it doesn't exist, and that's what makes talking about this depressing in a way. Because what's our purpose? Is our purpose to change it, or to try to get the word out there, or just to vent? You know what I mean?
It's probably just a vent. Here's my biggest thing with Howard. I was thinking about it this morning. I think I've said it on the podcast. I can't think of an entertainer, perhaps maybe David Letterman. Everyone has a right to evolve, but, I think about myself at 18, and I'm 51 now. I've evolved. I've changed in a lot of ways, but at the core, I still feel like I'm the same. My likes, my dislikes, my bents on life are still pretty much the same since I was 18, 21 years old.
I feel like if somebody...
I just can't think of an entertainer, Groo, that started here and today has moved so far from what he once was. It's almost shocking. It really is. I can't think of another entertainer, perhaps Letterman, and I was a Letterman fan, but I was a Stern devotee. I was a Stern... I knew Howard inside and out, so I only mentioned Letterman perhaps as an apt comparison. I mean, Howard has just moved just all the way to the other side, in my estimation.
Yeah, I'd say it's devolved in many ways because the show has become less, whether it's physically less, meaning fewer shows, shorter shows, taking things out that were innocuous, like the news, things like that. In those ways, some people like to say, well, the show has evolved. In that way, it's devolved. It's become less than what it was. Howard himself may have evolved as a person. Okay? David Letterman evolved himself as a person. He became nicer over the years. If you look at those old late-night David Lettermans, you can see his contempt for the guest he was talking to. You could see he's in on the joke, and the audience is in on the joke, and the only one who's not in on the joke is the guest, and that's what was funny about it. As time went on, he became softer and nicer. That comes with age, and I understood that. Did it become less funny? Yes, but the show basically remained the same. I just didn't really watch it that much anymore. I understood that. This is different. This is Howard. Howard based his entire career off of transparency. That's what drew us in. Like, it was no holds barred as far as his personality, his personal life, his interests, his things like that. And now that whole thing is gone. It's literally about the guest and who fucked up in the office, and see you next week. Like, that to me is what the show is.
Yeah, I think he's also added a very heavy element of politics as well. That
I don't think that's changed. He was political before. I remember when Pataki was running for governor, he was big on that. And he ran for governor himself, sort of. I don't see that as a big change.
It has been a big change. But let me get to this City Journal article, February 18th of 2022. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to spitball different points. Let's see here. The guy talks about the 1980. Well, this article obviously is framing the decline of the Stern Show. 1980s, 1990s. Stern was a husband, a father, a put-upon employee who ended, every day with the punishing commute between Nassau County, Long Island, and Midtown Manhattan. Let's see here. He was one of them, Buddy, their voice, and even their hero, but things started to change. So he talks about 1997, the movie Private Parts, which chronicles Stern Show's climb, and then celebrated his then-wife's quiet devotion to him and their 3 daughters. That wife, Allison, left him. They divorced in 2001. He took up with leggy young model Beth Ostrovsky. As I'm reading, if you want to interrupt, please interrupt me. Otherwise, I'm going to continue sort of summarizing the article.
Keep going.
Groo, he married Ostrovsky in 2007, signed a mind-boggling contract with SiriusXM in 2004. Left Nassau County, got a lavish Manhattan apartment. It's really not an apartment. He bought 2 floors of a building, so it's really not an apartment. So when Howard used to talk about his apartment, I remember as a listener, I was like, well, that's a frame of reference. I got an apartment too, but it's really not an apartment. He's gotten mansions in the Hamptons and Palm Beach. Article goes on to say over time he exchanged politically incorrect friends like Donald Trump and Gilbert Gottfried for the likes of Rosie O'Donnell and Ellen DeGeneres, whom he once brutally ridiculed. The article criticizes his 2019 book, Howard Stern Comes Again, which is just a massive assemblage of interview transcripts, in which he calls celebrity dum-dums like Stephen Colbert and Gwyneth Paltrow as evolved souls awashed in wisdom and humanity. Article goes on to say that I'm not alone in lamenting Stern's metamorphosis. On social media, many former fans articulate their disillusion with Howard, who they now call Hampton's Howie. Mm-hmm. Of course, Andrew and I have talked about New York Post columnist Maureen Callahan last April called the Howard Stern show dead, calling Howard Stern, quote, unrecognizable, noting that Howard Stern's best attribute had been going after other, famous hypocrites. They talk about, Alec Baldwin's wife, Hilaria, who, Howard sort of let go. Let's see here now. The article talks about how they're pretty much, him and Ostrovsky are now hermits in their Hamptons home. Howard's once fiercely pro-liberty Howard Stern has become a top-flight COVID-19 scold. He's highly criticized folks like Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay quarterback, who, declined getting the vaccine. Novak Djokovic, the tennis star, who apparently went to play the Australian Open, and he had a medical waiver, but they pulled him anyway for not having the COVID-19 vaccine. Stern Savage, the tennis star, that fucknut, what a fucking asshole. They should throw him right out of fucking tennis. On a later show, when a listener said that Djokovic Foundation had donated over $1 million for ventilators to Serbian hospitals, Stern said, I don't care, he's an arrogant fuckhead. The article goes on to talk about how Stern perhaps would have crushed someone like Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, who had sent COVID patients to the nursing home.
Okay.
Blah, blah, blah,
all right. All right. You said I can interrupt for a second. So
yeah.
Just don't get mad at me. But on the things that you mentioned, I happen to agree with Howard. However, you have to go after the other side as well. You can't just go after Josephich. You can't just go after these people who are doing things that you don't like and let the other people who you do like Hilaria Baldwin, like those guys, or Andrew Cuomo, you can't let them get off the hook. You got to be an equal opportunity critic. So while I do agree with his assessments about I've been very pro, masks, pro vaccine, all that stuff. I agree with him on that. However, you can't, like I said, he just gives the other side a pass. He gives the left a complete pass and just goes hardcore after the right. And that is where I disagree with him. Even though I agree with his points, he is not fair about it. Does that make sense to you?
I do, and I think you articulate it well. I don't agree with all your points. I'm vaccinated. I don't want to get into a COVID-19 thing.
No. I'm just. But you know what I'm saying.
Hold on, but let me finish, please. Let me finish.
Mm-hmm.
I think the guy does sum it up well. Howard was a pro-liberty guy. Howard also has had people on like Dr. John Sarno, whose whole theory was back pain is psychological. Howard has talked about, it's on tape, homosexuality was a mental health disorder earlier in his career. Robin has had every medical quack on with coffee enemas and every sort of kooky kind of thing. I just feel like Howard just every day, that was just 2 hours of COVID-19. Even now, as things have started to begin to fade out, whether you like it or not. I mean, the country is starting to move on from this, and there's other bigger issues to grouse. But I just, you've articulated it well. I just feel like Howard is just every day, 2 hours of the show, hammering, until a guy like me is just like enough, and I turn the channel.
But I think
but Andy, I think you articulated it well.
Let me put a exclamation point on it. Would you agree with this, or is this too far? would you say that Howard Stern is trying to be the Alex Jones of the left?
No, I think what Howard is become is, and I think Howard is very protective now of his legacy. He doesn't want to get canceled. I'm giving you my own opinion. And Artie Lang, we will talk about in a little bit, said Howard was the one guy that was uncancelable if he kept his perhaps prior philosophies. I think Howard has done it as a matter of convenience. I don't know if Howard truly believes it politically, but Howard sees, I don't know if he sees comfort or whatever it is, but he's moved to the far left, and perhaps that's protected him somewhat from other mainstream media venues who've gone after other folks. There's certainly a lot there in his prior history that could be quote unquote cause for cancelization, but the dude is slippery as hell and has continued to move on. And I'm not advocating, I don't want Howard to be canceled.
Me neither.
But I agree with you as you articulate. I don't think he's trying to be Alex Jones or trying to be shocking.
No, that's not what I meant. I meant Alex Jones only goes after the left from the right. Stern seems to only go after the right from the left. That's what I meant by that.
Okay, but here's what I would say to that point. Howard is an entertainment show. Alex Jones, Rush Limbaugh were presented themselves as political talk, and I know Alex Jones, forays into other kookiness kind of deal, but they're political talk, for lack of a better word. Howard was an entertainment show, and I agree with you, Andy.
Good point.
He's always had an element of politics, but it was always with a wink and a nod, and he had people on that could, he would talk to anyone who could promote himself and give him a rest stop or make him on a board of this or
and that was great. And, we missed the arrogant Howard a little bit in that way. It's all about him he never kept the secret that he was so narcissistic as a mental disorder. That's how, he always said, I'm so fucked up. All I care about is myself. And that's what made him so relatable. Because we all have that sense of, entitlement to some degree. And we could relate to that. Sometimes we get up in the morning and we say, you know what, today is all about fucking me, man. Screw the world. And that was what Howard was from 6 to 10:30, 11 o'clock every single morning. And it's just, and so you talk about he's protective of his legacy. In my mind, he's hurting his legacy, no?
Well, let me go on with a couple other points.
Okay.
The author criticizes Howard for, not standing up per se to people like Joe Rogan, who was, threatened to be canceled because he quote unquote had spread vaccine disinformation. People like Neil Young threatened to pull their music off Spotify, which he has a right. Mm-hmm. But the author says the old Stern, let it be recalled, spent years defending himself from the FCC, which tried to silence him by imposing huge fines on his employers for the use of profanity. But now he cheers, someone like Neil Young's attempt to muzzle Joe Rogan. Let me see here. Let me see.
And while you're looking for that, all right, go ahead.
Okay, no, feel free.
No, I was just going to say, for transparency, I'm no Joe Rogan fan, but I am disappointed in Howard that he wouldn't stand up for someone who was or is going through the same shit that Howard went through before. I'm disappointed that he would not stand up for him.
And I'm glad to hear that. I think Joe Rogan is only guilty of presenting someone who is challenging the narrative.
Right.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Again, you could have your feelings about this, that, vaccines, mask. There's nothing wrong with having somebody
with it. You could disagree or agree. It's up to you.
He does talk about that Howard still picks on, producer Gary Delabate, and he still has on the Whack Pack. But these bits, which used to feel motivated by genuine irritation, now feel pro forma, a way to kill time. Mm-hmm. He talks about how Howard used to spend 4.5 hours a day on air, but now he's pretty much now paid to do 3 hours, 3 days a week with loads of personal time.
Yeah.
He talks about how Howard was pretty open about his personal life. During his first marriage, he would unload about the burden of being a dad and the wife and all that good stuff. Under the Ostrovsky regime, the private stuff has been pretty basic. Pre-lockdown, listeners were treated to accounts of his and Ostrovsky's glamorous Mexico vacations with chums Jimmy Kimmel and Jennifer Aniston. He does talk about how Howard has pretty much sequestered himself in his Hamptons or Palm Beach home. All the cats that Ostrovsky is fostering. And he talks about now Howard still does the parents' impression, but the author calls it a little bit heartless now that Stern is 68 years old. His mother is a Dottie, 94, and his father is an adult stone-deaf, 98 years old.
Oh, God.
And as Andrew has talked about, they're the Stern guests. Gone are some of the world's funniest people. Rodney Dangerfield, Joan Rivers, Pat Cooper, Gilbert Gottfried. Obviously, some of them have passed on. But Gottfried has become persona non grata in Stern's new woke world. Who's dropping in these days? We've got Jake Gyllenhaal, Ben Affleck,
Courtney Cox,
a really smart guy. Musicians Billy Corgan and Eddie Vedder. And he does criticize Howard's interview style. It's very suck up.
By the way, while you're on that, you heard Courtney Cox this week?
Yes.
Do you remember what he used to call Courtney Cox every single time he referred to her?
He called her Courtney Cock.
Courtney Cock, which is still funny, damn it. No Courtney Cock this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm listening. I got up this morning. I was getting the dogs and getting their food, and I'm listening, and it's like I'm in my house with Elton John and Ed Sheeran, and I'm just like, Courtney Cox is talking about it, how she wants to be bi-coastal, has a house in L.A., house in New York, and I'm just like, wow, typical guy. Really,
I can buy that first class ticket now. Like,
really tough to sort of relate to. He talks about Gone as guys like Billy West, gifted voice artist who did edgy impressions of Nelson Mandela and New York Mayor David Dinkins.
Yep.
And now there's some guy named Chris Wilding who does imitations of Mitch McConnell and Alec Jones that are so predictably, painfully PC, you might as well be watching Saturday Night Live. As for political commentary, Greta Thunberg, I admire her. Morning Joe, Stern's a loyal listener. Supreme Court, 3 of the justices are eccentric, rebellious kooks. He does criticize, he says, Joe Biden. Stern and Quivers actually professed to marvel how much energy Joe Biden exhibited during a December 10th appearance on The Tonight Show. Let's see. The old Stern used to be preoccupied by lesbians. Lesbians, he asserted in the movie Private Parts, equal ratings. Now he seems to be obsessed with the issue of the moment, transsexuality. He religiously talks about the show I Am Jazz, the TLC series in its 6th season about Jazz Jennings, born a boy in 2000 and diagnosed as gender dysphoric 4 years later. Stern exclaimed, she's got a vagina now. So he wraps up by saying, back in the day, I listened to Stern all morning, every morning with very few exceptions. So did we. Mm-hmm. He was always a welcome distraction from the anxieties of the day. I agree with that. He always helped put life's botherations into perspective. He always made me laugh. If I ever turned off the radio, it was usually because I was laughing so hard it hurt. Listening to him during the last few days, I couldn't take more of a few minutes of him at a time. He was just too phony. He was just too phony, too dull. Groo, I was thinking about this podcast. Anyone who's doing a podcast who's in our age range, even younger, I mean, if somebody said to me, I was not influenced by Howard Stern, I would call absolute bullshit. The guy puts out a wide range article about the decline of Howard Stern. We'll move on to Howard Stern, the other side. Any final thoughts on the article to what the author is presenting on Howard?
I would say that the author owes us some royalties because basically it's everything we've been talking about. I mean, it's I don't have anything more to add. He hits the nail on the head with everything. It's just it's frustrating to be a fan. Yet here we are, still fans, still loyal in certain ways, meaning that I still have my subscription. I'm keeping it. I love listening to the old stuff. We're still loyal. Like, just the fact that we want... It's like Billy Joel with us. We criticize, yet we still attend, hoping for something that's not coming. But we still enjoy, even if we enjoy being disappointed in a way. It's weird. It's still our thing. So Howard still got us. That's the thing. If we didn't give a shit about it, we wouldn't be talking about it. You know what I mean? So
I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that. I think it's. I think I'm in an abusive relationship.
Yeah. We're being neglected.
All right, Groo. What I did for today is I got the top 5 performers, in my estimation, that have left the Stern Show. We'll talk about details surrounding their departure from the Howard Stern Show, and then we'll get your thoughts and my thoughts on their legacy and impact on the Howard Stern Show. So first up, we'll discuss Billy West. Groo, Billy West first started providing voices for the Howard Stern Show in 1989. Fans quickly fell in love with his ability to impersonate everyone from Johnny Carson, Johnny Cochran, to Connie Chung and Lucille Ball. There didn't seem to be anyone Billy West couldn't mimic. In 1991, Billy West also started working on Nickelodeon's new hit animated series, The Ren and Stimpy Show. The show's creator, John Kricfalski, John K., as he was called, and the network didn't see eye to eye creatively, and he was fired in 1992. John K. wanted Billy West to walk away from Ren and Stimpy, but he refused. In 1995, Howard Stern surprised Billy West by having John Kricfalski on the show to discuss their disagreement. Pretty legendary Stern Show. It got real uncomfortable, and some Stern fans pointed this as the beginning of the end between Billy West and the show. That same year, Billy West left after a failed contract negotiations with Stern, then's employer, Infinity Broadcasting. West has never said anything publicly, blames